players require significant energy to practice, train, and compete. Attention to appropriate caloric and nutrient intake is necessary to achieve physical goals and meet position-specific demands. One player's diet may differ completely from another football player's. I like to tell my players to let their goals, the position they play, and how much they train dictate how much and what kind of foods they eat. If a player is trying to lose weight to get lighter, leaner, and faster, he may want to cut down on starchy carbs, sugar, and fat intake to help drop a few pounds. If a player needs to gain some mass and bulk up, he may need big meals and plenty of caloric-dense snacks. A question that is commonly asked by my players is what are the benefits of consuming the macronutrients of carbohydrates, fats, and protein to help compete in American football. At its simplest, carbohydrate is potential energy. In fact, in a journal article by Burke et al. In 2011, he noted that carbohydrates are the primary energy source for exercise in muscles when exercise intensity reaches 65% of the maximum oxygen consumption or greater. Carbohydrate is the fuel of choice for high-intensity aerobic exercise where sprint and ballistic-like movements occur. Moreover, Burke et al. Noted in 2011 that high-intensity and vigorous workouts, like the ones done by football players, for sometimes more than an hour at a time, the athlete may need to consume as much as 5 to 7 grams of carbohydrates a day of body mass in order to maintain and replenish muscles and liver glycogen stores. Exercise depletes glycogen stores, which need to be replenished with carbohydrate. Consuming carbohydrate foods before exercise can help prevent hunger, delay fatigue, and provide energy during exercise. Carbohydrate consumption after exercise expedites liver and muscle glycogen resynthesis so that the athlete can recover more quickly. It should be noted that carbohydrate, not protein or fat, is stored in the muscle and liver as glycogen, which provides fuel for exercise and muscles. Carbohydrates are also important for an American football player because it is the preferred fuel source for the brain and nervous system. So for an athlete to learn to play, for example, they need to consume an adequate amount of carbohydrate. Burke et al. Reported in 2011 journal that there is a robust amount of evidence in situations where a high-powered output is required over durations of roughly 45 to 75 minutes. That mouth rinsing, for example, and intake of small amounts of carbohydrates can maximize the central nervous system and enhance performance by 2 to 3%. Lastly, as stated earlier, carbohydrates are the body's preferred fuel source of basic functions and intense training. Kleiner stated in 2001 that carbohydrates, both simple and complex, provide 4 calories per gram and should supply the majority of the athlete's total calories each day. An athlete's energy and performance levels will vary depending on the amount of carbohydrates they consume. Fat is stored energy. It is the largest and most efficient fuel source available in an individual's body. It is an essential nutrient in an athlete's diet and also helps provide a feeling of satisfaction after a meal. Fat is a reserve supply and a complement to carbohydrates, and fat provides 9 calories per gram. Football players need fat. Bosch and colleagues suggested in 2014 that for every pound a football player weighs, he should consume 0.45 grams of fat per day. However, it's important that the fat comes from heart-healthy sources like olive oil, avocado, nuts, cheese, and milk. Dietary fats supply a source of essential fatty acids and fat-soluble vitamins that are important to a football player's diet. However, most players either fall within the range for recommended fat intake or exceed it. Coyle et al. In 2001 stated that players who consume a high-fat diet will not only have adverse health effects, but may also displace the storage of carbohydrates by fat. On the other hand, Stellingworth et al. In 2006 noted players who eat a very low-fat diet, which is roughly less than 15% of the total kilocalories from fat, do not have any additional performance benefits. So neither a high-fat diet nor a low-fat diet is advised. Players of all ages should be encouraged to consume more heart-healthy fats, which include more fats that contain monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats, and lower amounts of saturated fatty acids and trans fats, the addition of fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. Bosch noted in 2014 that body mass increased abdominal fat, and accumulation also increased in football players who consume too much foods, especially high-calorie foods from fat. It should be noted that at the professional level, linemen had a 52% greater risk of cardiovascular death when compared with the general population, and 3 times the risk of dying from heart diseases when compared to non-linemen. I do believe that at the high school level, American football players need to focus on emphasizing more high-quality fat sources into their eating habits. Clearly there needs to be guidelines or resources available to young players to help teach them behavior and lifestyle changes in dietary nutrition. A possible outlook could be not to focus on adding more fats into an individual's diet, but instead make a concerted effort to eat fats from a variety of high-quality sources. As stated earlier, American football athletes need adequate fat in their diet to meet the increased energy demands of their respective sport. Protein aids in muscle development and provides 4 calories per gram. Protein can supply energy when carbohydrate or fat is not available, but is the last resort fuel for the body. Smith et al. Stated in a 2015 article that protein is needed for normal cellular function as well as synthesis of various bodily tissues. It is generally accepted that athletes have to increase protein needs. Of all the nutrients that could impact health and performance, consuming enough protein is a major focus for most football players. Athletes, like football players, benefit from consuming enough protein to stimulate muscle protein synthesis and repair muscle damage. Although there is no special RDI for protein intake among athletes, Fox et al. Noted in a 2011 journal that the position statement of the International Society of Sports Nutrition say that exercising individuals' protein needs are between 1.4 to 2 grams per pound of body weight a day. Depending upon mode and intensity of exercise, quality of protein, and status of total calorie and carbohydrate intake. Protein intake greater than this does not provide any benefits to athletic performance. However, Phillips stated in a 2012 article that protein recommendations for strength athletes such as football players should range from 1.6 to 1.7 grams of protein per pound of body weight. This is more than double the requirement for the sedentary adult. Smith claimed in a 2015 article that the quality of protein is partially dependent upon its digestibility, but primarily on its essential amino acids profile, including both the specific amount and the proportion of the essential amino acids. For example, branched-chain amino acids are absorbed faster than smaller amino acids, and essential amino acids are absorbed faster than non-essential amino acids. The question of how much dietary protein is needed to maximize performance among athletes is a question that has been debated for more than 150 years and still remains a debate. Ideally, a mix of protein sources should be included in the diet. Proper nutrition is essential for physical development and athletic performance. A sound nutritional program and adequate recovery are just as important as any training or exercise program. Lifting, running, practice, and football games damage the body, and one way to reverse the effects is through proper nutrition. As a strength coach, I believe that I'm responsible for providing all my athletes with the support they need to be successful. I believe that proper support makes it possible for players to achieve a lifestyle that includes proper nutrition choices. In short, I want my athletes to incorporate balance and variety with each meal to ensure healthy food choices. Choosing meals composed of more carbohydrates and more protein than fat. Substitute calorie-dense carbohydrate sources such as bread with nutrient-dense choices such as fruits and vegetables. It's also imperative for the athlete to know that carbohydrate is essential for supplying energy for training and recovery, and everyone's diet should include some fat.